Hello, my name is Thomas Schwingle, and I am a professional cinematographer based in Los Angeles. I'm making this 6-part series of videos for freelance filmmakers, creative gig workers, and small film businesses, figuring out the nuances of contract work versus being a short-term employee is confusing. Taxes are complicated. Invoicing and dealing with contracts from a studio can be intimidating. This is not legal advice or professional tax advice. Please speak with a lawyer if you need specific consultation, and please do your own due diligence. My opinions and tips are not the only way to structure your plans. However, after many years of running my cinematography trade across multiple states, I've learned a lot and often get asked by others for input. I'm sharing what I know because I haven't seen a lot of other videos that do it. This is video number 2 of 6 in this series. In the previous video, I talked about how one gets hired, the ways we negotiate rates, and the differences between being an employee versus being an independent contractor. In this video, I'll explain some ways that you can organize yourself as an independent contractor and ways you can make yourself more secure and protected as a business. If you've been working as an independent contractor, which usually means that you are invoicing for your work after the job, then it might be in your best interest to start an LLC, a limited liability company. This is a brief intro to LLCs. There are some business-oriented videos out there that can really weigh the pros and cons for you, but I'll explain how it can benefit us as creatives and what the basic steps are to accomplish it. The main reason for becoming an LLC is that it offers you some legal protection. In the last video, I discussed how some production companies might make you sign a contract to assign all responsibility and liability over to you, the contractor. If anything goes wrong around you on set, it's on you. Having an LLC is a great way to protect yourself from getting legally pounded if something does go wrong. Instead of suing the crap out of you directly, Miss Camera Assistant, all liability is shifted to your company. Now, you're not potentially losing your house, your personal assets, little pumpkin spice. The lawsuit can only go after the LLC's business assets. A side note, there are ways other than an LLC to organize your business. One option that filmmakers can do is file as an S corporation or S Corp. I'm not going too far down this road, but I'll give you the bullet points. If you file as an S Corp, you can set up a payroll system where you are essentially paying yourself from your own company, and thus get the benefits of unemployment insurance, and you can designate, within reason, how much of your business's profit is considered salary, which can save on the self-employment taxes you often have to pay as an independent contractor when you file your federal tax return. You'll have to pay a payroll company to handle banking, and yearly operation costs can be higher than an LLC, but some people find they save more money in the long run due to less taxation on profits. I would say that it generally benefits people that are approaching a 6-figure income or higher. For now, I will discuss the simplest and easiest way for you to protect yourself, and that is the Single Member LLC. It's very likely you are the only one running your business. You aren't part of some trio where the production hires tough grip boys, and one of you tough grips shows up for the job and you all share the income. You're likely watching this video because you've been working in production for yourself and you're trying to understand your options. The first part down the LLC road is actually the most fun. What is the name of your LLC? Think of something that comes off as professional to future clients, but perhaps is also memorable. I went pretty basic, using my own name and a word that is tied to what I do for a living, but you can really do whatever. Just make sure that you do some internet searches to see if the name's already taken. You want to be able to set up a website with your LLC name, and you want to confirm that the domain and any social media names are available. Next, you need to organize in the state where you reside. Ideally, you are living and working in the same state. Personally, I'm registered in 2 states because I work fairly equally in both states, and my residence has shifted over the years. I'm running only a single business, but in order to be compliant, I filed my LLC in both states where I do the most work, and they both point back to my headquarters, the main business address, which is likely to be your home address. But if you have an office, you could use that too. If you live in Illinois, but on occasion you get hired to do something in Indiana, you don't necessarily need to register yourself as an LLC in Indiana unless you've been presenting yourself as a business local to Indiana. It's important to consider where your business home is, or in what states you are labeling yourself as a contractor. Sometimes I see Instagram accounts where a person says they're in New York City, they're in LA, and maybe they're also in their home state of Colorado. If they are marketing themselves as a local business in all of those places, then they should be registered as an LLC in those places. You can set up as a foreign LLC in states that are outside of your home business address, but it means more operating costs and possibly more tax paperwork. To set up an LLC in a state, go to that state's Secretary of State homepage. Somewhere there will be a link to set up a business or register a business. Each state is going to have its own process. Generally, you are looking for something called Articles of Organization, which is a term used when forming an LLC. Some states might make you create an account first. Look at the requirements for your particular state before you start the process so you have all of the needed information in hand. Also, there's almost certainly a fee to file your LLC with the state. It can be anywhere from $40 to a few $100 depending on the state. Consider the fee cost before you start. Once your organization is accepted by the state, you should get a certificate that proves that you are a business in good standing in that state. The other thing to keep in mind is that you have to remain in good standing with the state after you file as a business. In the years that follow organizing within your state, you likely have to stay in compliance by filing and update a report every subsequent year or every other year. They want to know if the business is still active or if you've closed up shop. The annual or biannual report may also have a reoccurring fee each year you maintain the business in that state, although a few states do not charge a fee. Again, research this before you commit because you'll be factoring in this potential yearly cost as regular upkeep to maintain the business each year. When I do this in the states where I'm registered, it only takes a few minutes to file the report and it's all online. One state doesn't charge me at all, but I must do it every year. The other state only requires a filing every other year, but they charge a small fee of $20. In the process of filing, the state may ask you for a registered agent. This is almost certainly going to be you, but states set their own rules. However, if you're filing a foreign LLC in another state, if you work in multiple states, then the agent might be someone else, a person who can accept mail on behalf of the business if you don't reside in the foreign state. They aren't part of your Single Member LLC, but they are a trusted person to receive any correspondence. There are some services that allow you to hire out a registered agent, an address and service that will deal with your out-of-state business correspondence, but I haven't done a lot of research on this, and you should only use it at your own risk. Most states are going to require that you have an operating agreement. This can sound intimidating. It's a document that describes how the business functions. It will also act as a legal protection if you ever end up in court. It's basically a document that outlines the rules, regulations, and provisions for how the LLC will operate. This gets into legal territory and should be reviewed by a lawyer. You can easily find templates online that fit a Single Member LLC, and you can adjust the names and numbers within the document to fit your own LLC. I did this. I found a template online that matched what I thought was best for my own LLC. It was already drafted in legalese, and I just filled out the necessary names and numbers to fit my business, or modified any rules to fit my operations. I will suspect that not all people who form an LLC do this step. You should, though. It will be needed in any potential court case, and it's possible a bank will request to view it if you set up any banking or business with them. Personally, I haven't had to show mine, but I have it. All of this seems complex, but you can sit down in one day and do most of it. And the protection it is going to offer you down the road is well worth it. The last potentially optional bureaucratic step is to get a tax ID number for your business. This is kind of like a social security number, but for the LLC. It'll be on your invoices, your paperwork, or bank information. It's another way that denotes that the business is separate from you. It will likely also be required when you open a dedicated bank account for your business. On the IRS website, it says that except for certain tax situations, a Single Member LLC does not need to have its own tax ID number because the single member is the owner and the single member can just use their own social security number for taxes. However, it does also state that if a bank requires a tax ID number for a business account, it is acceptable to obtain a TIN. Personally, I do run my business with a tax ID number separate from my own social security number, and I seem to recall needing it to set up my business banking account. If you go to the IRS website, you can apply for an EIN, employer identification number, which is another name for a TIN, for your LLC. That's a lot of letters. The last major step to create a business that is separate from you and to give you better liability protection for the future is to open any banking or credit cards you need under the name of the business. That EIN, TIN number may come into play here, but check with the banking institution you want to use. You don't necessarily have to use the bank where your personal account is located. You can pick a place that has a favorable savings rate or better checking deals for small businesses. Maybe you'll eventually want a loan for equipment and a certain bank or credit union has good rates. When I started my business, direct deposit through smartphone was uncommon, so I ended up choosing one of the big national banks. I knew if I was on the road and needed to tend to any business, I could walk into a branch or find an ATM much more easily. These days, everything has moved to be very digital, so I think it's pretty safe to shop around and find a bank, credit union, brick or mortar, or online that serves your needs. If you handle a lot of cash in your business, then consider ATM access, especially if you travel a lot. Ideally, when you work as an independent contractor, the checks paid to you by a production or client are made out to your LLC. Sometimes a production will just make it out to my own name because they know me, even though I invoice through the LLC, but my business banking has never had an issue with that. My legal name is also part of the account. If you want to keep things as clean as possible, and in a perfect world, you only make business purchases with your business account and business credit card. Any of your personal expenses and discretionary income is done through your personal banking. This isn't always easy. If you are only doing invoice work, that means that your checks only go to your business account. Well, that money needs to get to your personal account for all your regular life stuff, so ultimately you have to pay yourself to move the money over. The reality is, if you do the Single Member LLC route, you are considered a disregarded entity by the IRS, which is just their way to say that, in this case, you, the person, are the business. Your taxes are done as one return because you are one entity. If you're making money on invoices and you're doing the right thing by depositing it directly into your LLC's business account, but then you have a personal emergency and need to cover a large cost, but your personal banking account is currently low because most of your recent income ended up in the business account, you might not have the time to transfer between accounts, then maybe you have to use the business debit card to cover a personal emergency. It can get mixed up. If you are a small-time filmmaker, finances can be tight. Cash flow can be restrictive at times, and the lines between what is personal money and what is LLC money could get clouded. It just happens. Again, there are ways to structure your business to help resolve this, like the S Corp we talked about earlier, or setting up your business so that your LLC pays you checks monthly. But if your income is erratic and every dollar counts, then it may be more stressful to do it all the exact right way. We should strive to do it correctly as the IRS wants, but I know the reality of inconsistent cash flow can make the ideal way tricky. Let's be clear, all of this is complicated, and I did not spell out every step and consideration you should take when starting a small business as an LLC. Again, this is the obligatory, this is not legal advice, disclaimer. But there are many websites out there to help you with the steps of starting an LLC to protect yourself. And each state has nuances to filing. But if your tax dollars are working, the Secretary of State website for your state should be able to help you. And then there's always other YouTube videos if you must leave my channel. In the next video, I'll talk about the extra steps you could and maybe should take in your business, like having insurance policies in place. And I'll mention some boilerplate contracts to have on hand. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, hit that like button and subscribe. There are a few more videos in the series coming out that talk about running a business. You probably want to watch more. Thanks.